Hello and welcome back to my channel. People often ask me, well, what does a chef cook for dinner when he's at home? So let me show you one of the dishes I cook for myself and my wife during the week. This is a quick and easy moqueca, which is a Brazilian fish stew. I'm going to use cod loin basa, which is a type of Vietnamese catfish, and some large shrimp. But you can use any white fish as long as it's chunky so it doesn't break up in the sauce. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Thank you. So on my counter I have the ingredients for my moqueca, which is Brazilian fish stew. From the back we have 50 grams of finely diced onion. Next to that we have a tablespoon and a half of coconut oil. If you don't have coconut oil, then you can use red palm oil. We're going to use some extra virgin olive oil. We've got 250 milliliters of chicken stock, or if you prefer you can use fish stock. We're going to use half a yellow pepper and half a red pepper. We've got one small green chilli. We've got 2 limes. We're going to use between half and 3/4 of a tin of this coconut milk. We've got half a teaspoon of corn flour that we're going to mix into a paste with a little water to thicken up the sauce. We've got 15 grams of fresh coriander. We've got half a teaspoon of smoked paprika and 1/4 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. We've got 8 grams of finely sliced fresh garlic. We're going to use 2 spring onions that we're going to finely slice. We're going to use 100 grams of this tomato finely diced. And finally we've got 150 grams of jasmine rice, 75 grams per person. So next we're going to talk about the seafood that we're using for our Brazilian fish stew. You can use any kind of white fish, but what you want to do is you want to have white fish that holds together. So I've got 2 really nice pieces of fresh cod loin with the skin on, which will help to hold it together. Then I've got 2 fillets of basa. This is a type of catfish that is grown commercially in fish farms in Vietnam, and it'll hold together, and it's a really nice, delicious white fish. And then I've also got these wonderful Argentinian red shrimp to finish the dish off. So my moqueca recipe is just for 2 people, so we're using 1/2 red pepper and 1/2 yellow pepper. If you don't have both red and yellow peppers, then just use 1 red or 1 yellow, rather than going out and buying a whole pack. When I cut peppers up, I don't cut the ends off like some people do. I just cut them straight down, and then I take the seeds out and the membrane out, and then slice them up. So I'm trying to waste as little of the pepper as I can. So I'll just get them trimmed up like that. Of course it helps if you've got a nice sharp knife. Just shake to get the seeds out of the peppers. Just repeat again. And the membrane out. And then just tap it lightly to get the seeds out. And we'll get that debris out of the way, and then we'll slice it up. Now whenever you're slicing up a pepper, you don't want to slice it up from the skin side because the skin is tougher. You're always better off slicing it up from the inside. Just like that. And again with the other piece of red pepper. So that's the 1/2 of red pepper, and then we're going to repeat the process for the yellow. So one of my pet peeves about recipes is when they say use 1 chili or 1 clove of garlic, and you know that no chilies or no cloves of garlic are all the same size. So wherever possible I like to weigh. And for this recipe I'm using a chili, and this one weighs 30 grams. So if your chili weighs 15 grams, use 2, so you've got 30 grams worth of chili. Of course that's the uncut weight. So we'll take the scales out of the way, and again I'm going to just take the very, very slightest amount off the top of the chili, and then cut the chili lengthwise, and then we're just going to carefully remove the seeds. Now some people like to leave their seeds in the chili and just chop the chili up, which will make it, of course, the dish hotter, because it is actually the seeds and the membrane in the chili that gives it the most amount of heat. But if you want to make it slightly milder, then you can take the seeds and the membrane out. We'll get those out of the way, and then we can just dice our chili up. And again, the same with chilies that I did with the peppers. Slice the chilies from the inside, because that way it will slice easier than trying to cut it from the outside. So we'll slice it into slices. Just turn it the other way. And you've got your diced chili. So we want to dice up this tomato and end up with 100 grams of tomato. Now, the Brazilians may just chop the whole tomato up, but I want to take the seeds out. But I want to get some flavour and use out of the seeds, so we're going to pour it together with our stock into our pot and heat that up before we add it to the sauce, and that way we're getting some flavour out of the tomatoes. So we'll just cut the tomato in half and then in quarter, and we'll take the seeds out. So now we've taken the seeds out, we just want to roughly cut the tomatoes up, try to make them reasonably even. And we've measured it on the scale, so we do have 100 grams. So we're going to zest the lime, and I'm not a big fan of using the finest part of a grater to zest with, because most of the zest ends up trapped in your grater instead of being used in the recipe. So I prefer to use a zesting tool, and we're going to zest the lime, and then we're going to chop it up with a big knife, just chop it a little bit finer. It's quicker, and you get all of the lime into your recipe. And we'll just gather that zest together. Just take a big knife and we'll just chop that for a minute or two. There you have the zest of one lime. So now we're ready to cook. This is the first thing we do. We put a tablespoon and a half of coconut oil. I'm using wok. Now traditionally Brazilians use a clay pot to do moqueca in. But if you don't have a traditional clay pot, then I think a wok is a great alternative. We want to get that oil pretty hot. So I've got it up on high, I've got it up on 8. As soon as that gets a little hot, we're going to add our onions and we're going to add our chili. So now the coconut oil is hot, we're going to add our onions and our chili peppers to the pan. And you can see the onions are already sizzling. So our onions have been softening now for about 2 minutes, and they're starting to get translucent, so now we're ready to add our peppers to the pan. So we add our half a red and half a yellow pepper. Just give that a good stir. If you feel comfortable, you can toss the pan. Make sure it all gets mixed up, and you need to stir from time to time so it doesn't burn. So now I've added my cayenne pepper and my smoked paprika to the pan. Give that a good stir. And now we want to add our thinly sliced garlic. Remember, we've got 8 grams garlic also into the pan. And we want to stir it, and we want to wait until we can really smell the aromatics start to be released from the spices and the garlic before we go to our next stage. So the peppers have been cooking for another couple of minutes, so now we're going to add our chopped tomatoes, our 100 grams chopped tomatoes. I'm going to stir that in, and once that juices from the tomatoes start to release, then we will add our stock that we've gotten hot. So it's important when you're using jasmine rice to give it a thorough washing first, and this will remove a lot of the starch from it. So we've covered the rice with cold water. You need about an inch above the rice to have the right amount of water, and we put it on high heat. We want to bring it up to a simmer and then turn it down. Just like when you're cooking potatoes, you want to bring it up to a boil, but don't leave it boiling. You want to simmer it for best results. So now we want to add chicken stock, or if you don't have chicken stock, fish stock. And remember, I put the tomato seeds in there to give some extra flavour to the stock. So we want to strain that back out, but we want to get maximum flavour out of it. So I'm just using a small teaspoon just to push those seeds through to get a little bit more pulp out of the tomatoes into the stock. That will be fine. We also want to add coconut milk, and coconut milk varies in thickness a lot. And on my recipe I say to use between half a tin and 3/4 of a tin, depending on how thick it is. So we're going to add about half a tin there, but we might add a little bit more if we feel it needs it. We're also going to add zest of 1 lime, and now give that a good stir. And we're also going to turn the heat down, all the way down from 8 down to about 3, just so we can let it simmer and all those flavours come together. I'm going to add a little more of the coconut milk into the moqueca. So we've used now about 3/4 of a tin, because this coconut milk does vary so much in its thickness, and we need to reduce it down. Another thing, if I'm concerned that the sauce is not thick enough, is I've mixed about half a teaspoon of cornstarch or corn flour with just enough water to make a paste, and we may stir that into the sauce if we feel that the sauce needs a bit more thickness. So now we want to season our seafood just very lightly with a little bit of black pepper on the shrimp, on the basa, and on our cod, and then a little bit with sea salt. So now that we have our sauce back to a simmer, we want to add our seafood. So first we're going to put our 2 fillets of basa in there, and you don't want to stir the sauce a lot once you've put the fish in, because you don't want it to break up. And now 2 pieces of cod, and we want to try to make sure that the fish is covered as much as possible with the sauce. So just press it down a little bit, just like that. The cod is nice and thick, so I have to make sure that that gets fully covered. And now we just want it to simmer to cook that seafood. Now the shrimp we're going to cook separately in a frying pan, just really quickly with some olive oil, because shrimp don't take very long to cook at all. Some people put their shrimp into their moqueca, and they cook it and they cook it and they cook it, and that's going to make their shrimp really tough. So rather than give you a time of how long it takes to cook the sauce down, you want to be looking for a temperature that your fish is cooked. You want the fish to be cooked about 64 degrees. Right now it's about 56, so we've still got a few degrees to go. Remember, the cod is really thick, so that's going to take a little longer to cook, but you don't want it overcooked. So in another couple of minutes we will put the shrimp on, and by the time the shrimp is quickly cooked, the cod should be absolutely perfect. So my rice has been cooking for about 18 minutes now. It's cooked absolutely wonderfully, so we're going to drain it and just keep it warm, ready for the dish. So now our fish is cooked, it's time for our finishing touches. So first we're going to sprinkle our 2 spring onions, or scallions if you're American, and I'm going to keep a little bit back just to garnish the dish with. And we're going to put most of our coriander in, but again we're going to hold back a little bit just to sprinkle on top of the dish, and we'll give that a very gentle stir over, but make sure we don't break up our fish. So our moqueca is almost done, so it's time to cook our shrimp. So we've got our tablespoon of olive oil in the pan, nice and hot, and we're just going to put our 6 red shrimp, and this will only take about 3-4 minutes to cook those. So we're going to turn these shrimp. People often tend to overcook their shrimp, so I just want to turn them about once. And give them now in total about 3 minutes and then another minute. So now our shrimp is cooked and we are now ready to put our dish together. So we're just going to turn the heat off and move the shrimp out of the way. So I have my basa in my bowl and I also have a piece of cod, and we're going to put some of that delicious sauce on top of there. Plenty of sauce, because remember it is a stew. And then we're going to garnish with 3 shrimp. Of course you can put more shrimp in if you want, but these are really good quality shrimp. And maybe just a little of the spring onions just to finish off the dish. So here we have our easy to make moqueca, Brazilian fish stew. Absolutely delicious with all the peppers and the seafood and the steamed jasmine rice. Enjoy. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. See you again.